in our Everyday Leadership series, and we have a real treat for you today because we have Donald on the line. This fine gentleman is a father and a brother, a baby brother even to how many brothers and sisters? Three?
I've got 3 brothers and a sister.
And a sister, okay.
Yeah.
And he currently works as the writer and director for a theater program working specifically with people who have development disabilities, which is a really cool offering. And he's agreed to talk to us today and give us his point of view about everyday leadership and the way in which he finds himself having to step up and into some of the challenges in the world. And so we're so pleased to have you with us here today, Donald. Thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure to be here.
And so tell me, how are you coping and what's going on for you?
Just one day at a time. I think like most people, just trying to fill my days and find something to do that keeps me inspired and keeps me, up and around. It's for the first couple days, because of my injury, it was easy to sit around in my pajamas all day long. But, now that time has gone on, I have to find something to do with myself, so I do allow myself to go out for walks,
Yes.
keeping the physical distancing, and then trying to find ways of social connection. For example, even doing this and using this app, the Zoom app, to be able to connect with friends and stuff has become really important, especially in this last week. Just to actually see people's faces is nice. I am going to be going back to work in a week, and I'm actually looking forward to going back to work, to having that focus again, and having that reason to get up in the morning and to go help the folks that I work with.
Nice. Yeah, and we were talking about how important it seems to be for people to want to just in general find a way to contribute, and I think that's a big part of the human psyche and how we find purpose is contributing.
I think so. I think even in my complex here, the email string that goes around, who needs help? I'm going out for groceries. Does anybody need anything? I think there's just this need to also help each other in this time.
Yeah. So Don, in your mind, like what's the thing that worries you the most right now?
Oh, well, obviously I'm worried that I'll get the infection. I'm, as I think most people are, they don't, I don't want to get sick.
Okay.
I'm 60, so I'm right on that edge of
right.
That age group when you look at the stats. I'm just worried that it could become a new normal. This idea of distancing and not being social. I think people need love and affection, and they need to touch. And so this idea that we have to keep apart, I think is really hard. The girls that I work with at my job, we hug each other every morning. And so it's like, and now we can't, right? And so it's, and I'm wondering if I'm worried that we might not get back to that way of life. And just the simple being able to get into the theater with my actors and work with them as a group, right? We were in the middle of production when this all fell apart, or this all came down, and so our production had to be put on hold. But the idea of being in a theater with a bunch of actors and working with them again, are we going to get back to that? But we'll see. I guess time will tell.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I worry about that too. What is it about? What do you rely on within you to help you through times like this? I'm sure this is not the only tough time you've faced in your life. So what comes from inside you and kind of helps you get through parts like this?
I think I rely on the fact that I think of myself as a creative person. I'm musical. I write poetry. And so that's always been my go-to when, life changes or life falls apart or it's not what I expected. It's I can always come back to this core of me being creative, being able to pick up my guitar and write a song or write a play or
Mm.
it's just, you know, it's something that I get to do for myself.
Yes.
So it's kind of one of those go-to things that I do. I pick up my guitar every day, like every day I
Beautiful.
pick it up for at least a little while, because it's kind of a touchstone, I guess, as far as moving on with my day. And it changes my energy,
Mm.
especially if I'm in a place that I, you know, maybe I'm a little blue or down or whatever, I can pick up my guitar, and there's something about voice and breathing and playing
Mm.
that just it changes my energy, and it takes me to a new place. It's kind of
Interesting.
great.
That is
Yeah,
cool. That is cool.
yeah,
It's true. So the
yeah.
process of creating is what serves you well.
I think so, and imagination and being able to use my mind, you know, being
Yeah.
able to I don't know,
Channel it.
dream and think and yeah, and force my brain in a different direction and away from pandemic and
Yeah. Yeah.
scary stuff. You know, it's a release and it's an escape as well,
Nice.
I guess. Sure.
Nice. Okay. And then, so let's talk a little bit about your early roots or that have helped you form who you are today, that helps you through difficult times.
Parents ran a foster home for foster kids, and so the caregiving field and the whole idea of social work um, came to me very early. I think they started when I was 7.
Mm.
So I got this sense of what caregiving was all about. Um, I was always interested in the meetings that my father and my mother had with the social worker. He would come once a week, and they would
Okay.
sit down. I was more interested because it had to do with Peak Freen cookies, which were always delicious. But uh, I don't know. I was a kid. What can I say, right?
For sure. There's
But
motivations. Yeah. Yeah.
but just listening to them talk and listening to them talk about care and what
Mm.
were they going to do for this child or that child, and you know, was the house a good fit for them, were they comfortable, you know, they would talk through all of that kind of stuff, and so I think I got a sense of that really early.
Interesting.
um
Interesting.
yeah.
And did everybody in your family, meaning your brothers and sisters, um, all have the same experience of sharing your home with other children, like foster children, and how did
um
that kind of play out?
my two oldest brothers, um my oldest brother is 11 years older than me. So
Okay,
if I was 7, he would have been 18.
he's almost out.
So
Yeah.
he only lived around it he was almost out, exactly. And so my second oldest brother, he actually moved out of the house even earlier than, I think he moved out
Mm,
when he was just about 18. So it was my sister, and then my middle brother that were around it the most, and
okay.
mostly me and my sister. So
Okay.
it was different, right? You know,
Yeah.
we span over 11 years, so the experience that they have
Sure. A lot
uh,
different.
would have been a lot different. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was certainly the one that was around it the most, for sure,
And
I
so
guess.
you describe being interested in the meetings and listening to the social worker talk about individual plans. But what did you do as a young child coping with these situations? Like,
Um,
was it?
there was this. I don't know whether or not it was actually true or not, but my parents tried to make us feel like our family was just a little bit separate. Like there was
Yeah.
moments that we would have on a weekend, say, where we could
Okay.
get together and be together. And so
Okay.
I think they tried their hardest to try to keep this keep it
Yeah.
different,
Yes.
so that we, you know, because it was our family. But as far as getting to know the kids, um, most of them, sure, like just
Yeah.
you just got to know them. They were in the kitchen when you were, and so you just talk, and we'd go out and play. Like there was a boy that came in when I was probably 11, and he was also 11, and so you know we bonded and went out and played. I grew up in Victoria, and I was like a block away from Beacon Hill Park. I don't.
That's
St.
awesome.
Anne's Academy. St. Anne's Academy was my backyard. It was right behind us, where my house, and so we had fields and forests, and we would go down to the waterfront and the beach. And it was the days when you could leave at 10 o'clock in the morning and then not come home until dinner time, right? You know,
Those were good days.
so those were good days. You know, come home when the street lights come on. You know, was the rule. But we just go out, and especially in the park, it was just like a forest and a wonderland, and we just play. And
Awesome.
interested in at the time it was the Narnia books. I don't know if you know
Yeah, of course.
the
C.S.
Narnia. So
Lewis.
suddenly it was the
Yeah.
land of Narnia, and we would just play. And anyway, kid stuff. But I think that's how I did it. And then maybe it was a little bit of escapism. I don't know. The idea that I would get away from because
The
there were
reality. Yeah, the
the
reality.
reality. There were a couple of challenging kids that had high behavior needs. And one who unfortunately was misdiagnosed, and they thought he had ADHD and had all these problems. It turned out he had epilepsy, but he didn't know that
Oh,
until after he left our home.
oh my
And so he'd have
goodness.
fits and rage, and he'd trash his room and all that kind of stuff. So there was those elements of
Yeah.
where I just, nope, it's time to go to the park, it's time to go play, and
You would
let that
leave.
energy go
You'd
away.
physically
And I
leave.
would
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah. And I
That would be
had
very scary. That would be very scary.
at times it was, but then also, I think my parents actually just tried to make me realize that these people needed help. They
Yeah.
were going through some stuff, and their life was more of a challenge than mine was, and so they needed, they just
That's
needed that support.
that's a very generous sentiment, right? That's partly. So you described for me before we got on the line that your mom's parents were Baptist missionaries, and she grew up
They
in
were
India.
missionaries in
Yeah.
She did, yeah. She moved there when she was really young and lived there until she was 18, in a mission in India, in Kodi Canal. And so
A long
she
history.
already had that. She had
Yeah.
that background of mission and caring
That's awesome.
and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And
Yeah.
cooking. She loved to cook, and she loved to cook for an army. So it came naturally that and I do too. Like, I can't
Oh,
cook for two
interesting.
people. I just can't do it. So when I went into the caregiving field, and I work in a group home, it's just like, this was great for me, because I would cook for an army as well. And I still do. If I cook, I cook huge casseroles that last forever. So,
You're like,
I don't
I'm
know.
tired of this on
I
day
can't do it.
4. Yeah.
Oh, well, like, yeah,
Well, thank you. And so thank you for sharing that background piece. And so
yeah,
when you
no
when you
worries.
think when you think about, like, what are you most proud of in your life? What is it?
Other than my son, I have a son who's he's about to turn 20. I'm very proud of
Nice.
him. He's become a writer. He likes to write, and he writes
Ah,
novels, and so
cool.
it's nice to see that he's got a bit of the creative, as well, which is great. What am I most proud of? I'm just happy and grateful that I get to do what I do. Really, I am proud of the work that I do, and the fact that I get to showcase some actors that have disabilities, and they get to show their stuff, and they get to show the world just how able they are. They get to break out of that mold of being handicapped, and
Yes.
they get to just shine. And I think I'm most proud of that, is when the audience is leaving, and we get to hear the comments, and that's when I realize that these people have been validated, and they're standing on their own, and I think it's a very powerful place for them to be, and I
Yes.
feel really good about that when it happens. I
That's
feel really
awesome.
good about it. Yeah.
Awesome. I hope the show goes soon so that you can have that, right, to fill the cup.
Who knows? We might have to do it over Zoom or something. Get all
Can you
the actors
imagine
in little
a theater
boxes on
production for Zoom? It's not
over
possible.
Zoom. Actually, I heard of a reading just last week from Victoria. There was an acting company that had to put their show on hold, and so they actually got on Zoom and they did a reading. So there was, like, I think 9 actors that all sat and read
That's
from
cool.
their particular places, and they just did a read through, and people could actually tune in and watch. And so, I don't know. It's kind of an interesting concept. So who knows? Maybe it's something there.
So interesting.
Kind of fun.
Well, it is
Yeah.
interesting. I mean, and that is actually one of the things that's interesting about this time, is how many creative people are putting their art or their work out there for people to consume in some way during this period of
Yeah.
time. And yet there's
Yeah.
so much about, like, theater or even the work that I do, where you work in groups of people, that
where you're with people. Yeah,
it would break my heart to be always doing it over,
I
you
know.
know, there's just so much
Yes,
that comes from
yeah,
the
yeah,
energy of a group of people coming together and that thing unfolding on the
definitely.
stage like you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah,
Very
and the
cool.
teamwork and the camaraderie and all of that stuff. Yeah,
Very good.
it's we are considered an essential service, so we are going to be providing care for people when I go back to
Yes.
work.
Yes.
But it's not. I mean, it is essential care. It
Yes.
is. You know,
Yeah.
breakfast
The
and
day to
lunch and
day, the day to
laundry and
day.
all that kind of stuff, right?
Yes.
And so I'm hoping to be able to, I don't know, maybe just bring my guitar one day and try to have something
Nice.
creative, some kind of creative moment to lift people up, or
For
just to
sure.
even lift myself up as a care worker, right?
For
Just to
sure.
have the energy for myself. Yeah,
Good. Nice. Nice. Awesome.
yeah.
Can I ask, is there any little ritual or anything you do with your cast of actors before a show or after a show?
Mostly, I tell them to have fun.
Awesome.
And don't worry about dropping your lines or any of that stuff. It's just like it becomes about the experience. Like, let's make this the best experience. It's not about it is about the final show, it is about the play, but it is
Sure.
more about the experience of doing it. And even in the process, as time has gone on, I'm starting to realize that sure, the show is important and putting on the show
Yes.
is important, but the experience of rehearsing and being together and actually doing it has become way more important than the
Mm,
final results. It really is about a group of people and an energy in the room, doing something, being creative and saying
right.
yes to whatever, which is it's our
Saying
big
yes, that
our our big
very
you got to
famous
say
idea.
yes, otherwise the scene
Nice.
doesn't go on. You got to say yes, otherwise the moment doesn't go forward, right?
Awesome.
It's just a really important thing for theater. Yeah,
It's interesting because what you're saying right there almost suggests that the great output, like a great production, is almost the byproduct of all that has gone before around the
sure.
rehearsals and the people bringing their
Yeah,
game and the wanting to have fun and the energy
that's
that the
right.
group has coming. Yeah, cool.
That's right. No, it's very much, it has become that for me, especially.
Nice.
um and of course, we're not going to lower the bar and create a show that's less. you know our standards haven't lowered at all. We're still going to put on the best show that we can, and we're
Of
still with that
course.
focus, but
Yeah,
just
yeah.
realizing that the experience is just as important as the final production. Yeah,
Right. And the
kind of cool.
recent one you're working on is a Western, is that right?
It was a Western. We do last year we adopted a kind of skit style
Yes.
show. We often try to choose a genre as we are developing the shows, because it helps people suddenly realize character and the kind of part that they might be playing.
Very good.
So whether or not whether it's a haunted house, they can go, oh yeah, I can be a mummy or whatever. But this one is like we said a Western, and people started going, cool, I want to be the sheriff, and I want to be the saloon guy, and the bartender. It's great. And
Yeah, yeah.
suddenly all that creative juices start flowing, and people come up with ideas, and it's part of the
Beautiful.
process. That's the fun part,
Nice,
for sure.
nice. Okay, well,
Yeah.
we're reaching the end of our time together.
Okay.
It's been a real pleasure to chat. I'm wondering if you could put into like a short, concise message. I mean, what would you say? What do you think is important for people who are, day to day right now and working through things and maybe struggling, but wanting to draw on their own strengths and leadership? What would you say to them, and what do you think is important?
I think you need to tap into your own um, wants and desires,
Mm,
your love, your
mm,
passion. What are you
mm.
passionate about? And bring that out to whatever it is that you're doing. If it's your day-to-day job, if you can tap into the passion, you're doing it for yourself
Mm,
as well. You're not just giving, you are also receiving. You are getting
beautiful.
something from it. So I think you're just happier if you're doing it because you love it.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time and for spending a bit of time and talking to us this morning. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.